So thank you for the introduction, Katrina. As you said, I've got years of experience of working within grant funding, whether that be supporting organizations to achieve grant funding or to actually apply for grant funding for projects that I've been involved with myself. And so I would say that I've experienced everything to actually do with grant funding. And I suppose that deems me an expert at the same time. So why this presentation has been developed, the first thing is that whilst my work with Good to Give has unraveled a number of different issues, challenges that are faced by charities and churches when applying for grant funding, especially within this current COVID-19 pandemic. Over the years, we've worked with hundreds of charities and churches, and that puts us in a good position to see when there are any type of common issues that are being faced by them. So that this presentation has been put together so that we can help you to identify areas within your own practice, within your structure, that will help you, that if you strengthen them, it will enhance your chances of achieving grant funding. And if you notice that we say the words enhance, because it's a very competitive area, as I'm sure that many of you have found out, and that you just need to put yourself in the best possible position. COVID-19 has really impacted on the type of grants that are available and how grant funders are actually responding to administering these grants towards charities out there. And even if you've got a new, really innovative type of project to begin with, that does not necessarily mean nowadays that you're going to definitely get funding. So when we look at the present shape at the moment, we're finding that more grant providers are putting emphasis on funding projects to continue the established work that they're already doing. So it's more about looking at people's core costs, looking at what can we give you to maintain what you're doing, and they're not being as receptive as they were previously to new innovative projects. And so therefore, if you cannot clearly demonstrate what you've been doing or the impact that you have made in the past, then the chances of you achieving that grant funding are going to be minimized, and sometimes drastically minimized. So what do we want to achieve? We just want to put you in the strongest possible position moving forward. And that's what this presentation is about. So first of all, let's look at who you are. Let's look at your status and your identity. Now, very important, there's certain funders out there, they're not even going to look at you unless you have that charitable status, or you're a not-for-profit organization or a CIC. And I think it's very important that that old saying of walking before you run. And you could have the greatest ideas, but if you don't fit the criteria with the funder, it doesn't really matter what idea that you've got, then they're not going to entertain you. So looking at charitable status is very important. That's something that here at Good to Give, I'm sure that a number of you will have already accessed that service and will have been registered as a charity with our support already. But if not, put some thought into which type of status will suit you. And if you're unsure about that, you can always contact our advisors here who will be able to advise you in terms of which direction you should be taking. A case statement. Having a case statement. Now, a number of you will say, what is a case statement? A case statement is usually just 1-2 sides tops of A4 explaining who you are. And it's quite remarkable when asking, and I'll say this is especially for the churches, to say, who are you? In terms of saying, what do I do? How do I do it? Who do I work with? How do I impact on them? Now, answering those questions and saying them very briefly, and just it being able to roll off the tongue is very important, because those are the questions that you're asked within a funding application, and to put it in a nutshell. And if you can't answer those questions about yourself, then realistically, I would say that you're not in the position yet where you will, I would say that you're fit for funding, and that you need to identify who you are. And a lot of churches, charities, you know, they know who they are, but actually putting it down on paper, now that's a different kettle of fish. And this ties into the next point of that transformation of, or should I say, that transformation to go through that change from being a church to a charity, because there is a difference in looking at your structure, looking at your way of thinking. How do you record things? Is there a difference between a church and a charity? That's the question. And yes, there is. And that's the answer. Because as a charity now, you've got to be thinking more about, on that professional level, it's not just about the good that you do. It's about, how do you actually represent, how do you show, how do you evidence the good that you do? And I'm not just talking about writing down some minutes after a meeting. I'm talking about official, proper reports, the things that funders want in the format that, in the type of format that they want. And a lot of the times I found that's lacking. And straight away, all these points that I'm mentioning, if you're ticking them off and if you haven't got them there, then that is minimizing your chances of accessing funding. I come across so many great ideas, so much good work that is being done out there, but a lot of it is lost. And it's like when you have a good idea in the morning, but you don't write it down. 9 times out of 10, by the time you get to the evening, it's faded. So if you haven't got a good system for recording what you're doing, if you haven't got a good system that will emphasize and show the impact, so that when you record it, it's showing the impact as well. Number one, it makes it easier for you to do applications, because you've got a system that everything that you put into there, when you go back to it, it's there, transparent. You can see what's happening. But if you're going back to something that isn't fit for purpose, then that means that anything that comes out of it is going to be weaker. Congregation, community, these are just ways of I'm trying to put there of how you should, as a charity, be looking at how you see yourselves in regards to now I'm a charity, to have that wider scope. A lot of funders, what they want to see is how you're impacting on the wider community as a community resource. So it's just about that transition from maybe looking quite insular to having that more outward type of vision for your church. Corporate image. Now, I think that most churches out there have got a very wholesome corporate image, but it's also about showing that you are the business. Yeah. And there's so many things that will tie into your corporate image. Have you got a website? Do you have an online presence? Do you take proper minutes and recordings of meetings? How are you keeping track of any type of consultations that you're having with people, or somebody says something good about you? Where you putting that? Where's that being recorded? And can anybody pick it up and have access to it so that it can be used? Or so there's no point keeping records that only you have got access to and nobody else in the organization. And that word organization is very important. So looking at when a funder looks at you, what does that funder see? Do they see a church, or do they see an organization that can deliver project work, services to a high standard, and that they won't have any problems with when it comes to the end of that project to find out what the impact has been, how their money has been spent, those type of things? Because a lot of the times, the funders that we're dealing with, we're talking about public funds. So first steps. The first step is, yes, compile your evidence. Compile evidence from previous sources. You need to be able to show that you have researched a project area that you are applying for. Now, we call this primary evidence. And when you're applying to a funder, they're expecting that you are going to be the expert in your area. You are going to be the person who is going to be able to manage the funds, to deliver at the standard that you've promised. And for them to give you that money in the first place, they've got to have confidence that you can do that. And they will look at everything. They will look at your financial records. So your financial records, say with Charities Commission, with the Charity Commission, to look at and to say, do we think that this person is reliable? Are they submitting their accounts, their annual accounts on time? Or they're picking up fines? Are they accustomed to managing a budget of this amount? If you've never had funding and all that you're showing in your accounts with the Charity Commission is that, well, we have an annual turnover of £5,000–6,000, then it's going to be quite rare that you're going to be able to apply for £50,000–60,000 grant because there's no evidence that you can manage a budget of that magnitude. So in all honesty, my first steps with you would be to say, I will support you to apply for maybe say a £10,000 grant, what I would call a startup grant. And out of that, you may then decide that what you will deliver will be a pilot project. Now, a pilot project just to show that what you do works. That's it in a nutshell, straightforward. So you might be doing a Meals on Wheels type of project. And so you might just do it with geographically just a few customers, a few service users who access that service every week. And you will deliver it with a much smaller budget. But what you do is that you go back to what we were talking about before. You record everything. You make sure that you show 100% the impact of what you're doing, so that then the funders will look at that. And when you go back to them to say, right, we did this, we held this pilot over the last 6 months, and these were our findings, that's much stronger than you just saying, look, we want to run this project. We want so-and-so amount of money because you'll see on the news, you know, and start quoting a lot of secondary type of secondary information, which is good, but it doesn't say that. How do you know that in the geographical area that you're going to be working with, that people are going to access this project, that people trust in you enough to do that, and that you can actually do what you say you're going to do? Next thing, let's look at your online image. I've type of touched on it already, but I think you go to a lot of the websites that I've looked at, especially for churches, is that it's very churchy, and maybe to look at how you can actually modify your online image without losing the impact of what you're already doing, but to do it so that it actually represents you as a charity as well, and to look at as many different many different mediums as possible. So you've got the Facebook, you've got Instagram, you've got there's all sorts of ones. My mind's just gone blank. But what I'm saying is, look at that. Look at what footprint that you're leaving behind, and you know, recruit the people on board if you don't have the skills. There's always people who are willing to volunteer, and to volunteer those skills to help you to develop those type of things within your organization. Second steps. So this is step 2, right? Remember that this is about the charity and not the church most of the time when you're going for funding. So although you can use the community and social work of the church to add to the mix, what you need to look at is that you need to present a clear image of what you're doing as a charity, the work that you've done in the past. So you need to be able to translate what you've done maybe on a weekly or a daily basis as a church, and translate it into charitable language. What makes you stand out? What is your unique selling point? Why are you different to maybe that church down the road or that church up the road? Because in the end, most of the time, unless you're going into partnership with them, you're competing with them as well. It's important that you show that you've got a strong understanding and awareness of the communities that you are targeting. And you need to put this in a report, because many of the funders will ask you for an annual report. And there has been a lack of actually having that type of resource put down with a lot of the clients that we've been working with. And to be fit for funding, if you put these things in place in advance, it will result in you not missing deadlines or having to rush and put together a report which is very evident that you've rushed it. So it's a simple thing to do, because you can gather information as you're going along, and different people can feed into that report. Like if you was doing a newsletter, usually one person may not sit down and just do this newsletter. Different members of that team will feed into that newsletter, so that you've got something that is now representative of the whole team. Having statistics showing the number of attendees, the impact of projects, services, and number of beneficiaries, because a lot of our clients, I'll ask them this question, how many people, and they haven't actually got anything concrete there. So they've got to type of guess at a number, and it looks much more impressive if not only you're not guessing at the amount of people. You can say, right, over the last 6 months, these are the amount of people that we've impacted on. This is how we've impacted on them. You may have some nice graphs created that show, you know, a nice pie chart that shows we've helped people here with mental health, we've helped people here, homelessness, poverty, and those things look impressive to funders. I've already mentioned the case statement, but I'll mention it again. Know your organisation. Even if you're coming to us and we're supporting you with your funding application or applications, you know your organisation better than we do. And you need to bring that to us, as well as let us know within that case statement what your USP is. What is your unique selling point? And if you don't know your unique selling point, I'd advise you to get to know it, because funders get hundreds and thousands, some of them, applications every week, every month. And there's got to be something that stands out with you, like a flashing beacon for them to pick up on it and pull it out and say, oh, this one seems a bit special. Let's give this a further look. So think about who you are and what you do. And it's not always just that, well, I'm doing good work. Sometimes it goes a lot deeper than that. Community mapping exercise. So after you've done the report, you've looked at your online, you've looked at your online presence, you've identified your USP, you've got your case statement there, you've got your status sorted out, then you need to be able to know the community that you're working with or that you're targeting. It is vital that you can show funders that you have a strong awareness of who the community is and what is already happening. Now, I'm going to go to the end of that statement there. The first thing is, what is already happening? A lot of funders are already active in an area. And if they're funding a project that is very similar or the same as yours, it's very likely that they're not going to want to fund that project again. So that's where having that awareness of your locality is extremely important. And I have seen a number of projects over the years who haven't carried out, call it due diligence, and have been surprised when they've been knocked back, even though it may have been an excellent application. Funders do not like repetition. And I'm going to say it again. That's why in this case, again, it's very important that you know what your USP is. So I'll say it again. What will make you stand out? And so when you're doing this community mapping exercise, you may find similar organizations, but is there something extra that you can sell? Now that needs to come from you. We can help you to identify what that USP is, but you yourself have to know what that USP is. And include these findings from the mapping exercise, include it in the report to support the need for the work that you are doing or that you intend to do. Financial records. Now, this is very much a big part of who you are as a charity. You've got to really look at maybe how you've been keeping your financial records, how you've been maintaining those as a church, and maybe realizing that maybe that might not be fit for purpose when you're making your recordings as a charity. So obviously they need to be accurate, truthful and honest. But then if you keep good financial records, also when we're going for applications, we can go for full cost recovery, because full financial records means that you've got a better awareness of what you actually need to do what you're doing. And so then when we go for full cost recovery for a grant application, we can show that this is what a project will cost to be delivered. This is the full cost of what it will be to be delivered. And then that means that you've got that means, yes, that you will not be able, you won't have to have the costings of anything else. Excuse me one moment. I'm very sorry. Bye-bye. Slight interruption. We will get the cost down to the last paperclip. I'm very sorry about that. And my wife shouted me from downstairs, and I'm like trying to ignore her to an extent. But yes, so full cost recovery means that we would apply for everything down to the cost of the last paperclip, because that means that you can concentrate on best quality services and on high impact services. So it's very important that you're very organized and you have clear headings for your project costs. So you may have utilities, you may have very specific resources that you need to give a title to, so that when you go back to it, it's very clear what's been spent on what. If funders go back to it, you can respond like that. And that's what funders like. They like it when you can respond quickly, because alarm bells start ringing if you can't. So it's important that you have these type of controls in place. And up-to-date accounts. If you don't keep up-to-date accounts, and if you file accounts late, then that sends alarm bells ringing for most funders. They want to know that you're trusted. And there could be a host of reasons why you're late with submitting accounts, but in the end, the funders, like I said, they're seeing hundreds and thousands of candidates for the funding that they've got on that they're providing, and so they don't have time for really questioning that. They're not going to call you and say, "Oh, we're just a bit worried. For the last 2 years, you've submitted your accounts late." That'll just go against you. So it's very important that you do that, and obviously that's an area of work within what the Good to Give deliver that we can support you with, and ensure that you're on time, that you're on point, and then that means that you're going to be much more attractive to funders. So working with us, working with Good to Give, coming round to that, and providing clear information. Now, this is an issue that we have had with some, not all, with some of our clients. And when I just said previously that funders like it when, you know, they ask for information, financial information, they can get it like that. And in the same way with us as a supportive body, when we ask for information, and so I initially will send out a blank form and it comes back half completed. I'll be honest, straight away, that worries me a little bit. That makes me think that this potential client may not be at the point where they are actually ready for funding yet. And where they're sending stuff in dribs and drabs. And I'll have people who will send me stuff, they'll send an email with half a questionnaire filled in, and then they'll want to send a WhatsApp with some more information, and they want to send a text message with some more information. What I was talking about earlier about corporate image, about professionalism, these are the type of things that we need to build within ourselves as a charity. You need to build that within yourself, that transformation from being a church to a charity. It's important that you compile all your evidence together, and that besides what we're asking for you, that you have the reports in place. You've got your own statistics. And remember, a lot of funders, when they look at reports and statistics that you've compiled, they only want to see 2 years. They don't want to go back further than 2 years, because as far as they're concerned, that's dated now. You need to do some fresh research. And go back to it again. Remember, you are the expert. You are the expert. And you should be able to provide any information about your charity, about your church, on demand. And if you don't feel that you're at that stage yet, then I would advise that you're at the stage where you maybe need to go through our roadmap, our Good to Give roadmap, to get you fit for funding. Because the more fit for funding you are, the higher probability of you getting funding, the higher probability of you maintaining and sustaining funding as well. And remember, you're the expert, so you need to take the lead role in that. We can help to support you. We can get you there. We can bring you on the journey of the roadmap, but you've got to provide us with the information, and you've got to have that drive to get through it as well. But when you get to the other side of it, that opens up a host of opportunities for you in regards to funding and fundraising support. You should be able to provide income, expenditure, most recent accounts, project costs breakdown. And this project cost breakdown seems to sometimes be a bit of a stumbling block, because if you don't know how much it costs you to deliver a project, then it's a problem, because you need to know yourself. I've got a very good idea of how much it costs to deliver projects, but at the same time, I'm not going to be delivering the project, and you need to take ownership of what you're going to be delivering.
Thank you so much, Dominic. That was so helpful. So before we jump into the next section of this webinar, which is all about the Good to Give roadmap that Dominic mentioned and how we can support you along the journey to get fit for funding, do you have any questions about funding? Please post them in the Q&A or the chat box right now. And I see one here. So our charity is newly created and our work is mainly abroad in Africa in particular. Can we as a registered charity in the UK benefit from any public grants?
You definitely can do. In terms of which ones, that's a question. It's in terms of answering that question, what would happen is we'd have to see what area that you're working in. It could be housing, it could be poverty, it could be health, anything like that. And Good to Give, we are members of a number of different search engines that we pay into every month. And we've also got our own database, and we would search on that. But yes, there definitely are a number of funders who will fund outside of the UK. A number of them will fund outside of the UK, but they want to see also what the impact of that will be within the UK as well. But some of them are quite happy to fund outside of the UK as well. And if that's something that you need any more information on, please contact us and we can take you through the process, and we can find the funders for you and ensure that you're fitting their criteria as well. I had somebody who approached me, an organisation, just a couple of months ago, and I gave them a number of bullet points so that they will go through these bullet points, and then at the end of it, if they've achieved, if they get through them all successfully, then they should be able to apply for outside the UK grants.
Fantastic. Okay, so now we are going to get into the Good to Give charity roadmap, which we are about to launch, and we are so excited about because we know the difference that it is absolutely going to make to a lot of your organizations. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so a reactive response will not work. Strategy is required. Now, what I mean by strategy is how you're going to get to your destination. Now, a lot of you, or most of you, all of you, in fact, are probably on this webinar because you want to become fit for funding. You want to access funding. But in order to do that, you have to adopt a strategic approach. And that's what Dominic has been speaking about when he says that, you know, you need to have your finances in order, you need to have the right documentation. Now, we've made this process really, really simple for you. We've taken all the legwork out of it, or most of the legwork out of it for you. So you don't have to think about how to get fit for funding. We have a roadmap that gets you there and make sure that you have dotted the I's and crossed all the T's, and make sure that when a grant maker looks at your application, looks at your organization, they are thinking, amazing, yes, this is an organization that we would entrust to manage these funds. So for those of you that have not heard of our Good to Give roadmap, it is a strategic plan of action designed to get you through this time of crisis and to the goals that your charity has for the future. Now, for many of you, like I said, that's going to be securing funding for a significant community-based project. It could be securing a physical building. It could be establishing a hybrid church for the future, or it could be a combination of any of these things. Now, here is our typical roadmap journey. So first we start with, for those of you that don't have charities already set up, or your organization is not set up as a charity, we would get you set up as a charity and make sure that all the due diligence around that is done. Then we would look into your financial management and make sure that your accounts are submitted on time, that your accounts are of a high standard, that you are above reproach when it comes to your finances and the setup of your organization, because these are the things that are important to funders, like Dominic has just said. And I just want to add that in all of these areas of the roadmap, we have experts in each of these areas. So Dominic, for example, he's been writing bids for over 30 years. Now that's significant. Everyone from, you know, the National Lottery to Lloyds, just so many organizations that he has helped organizations like you receive funding from. Then we look at data management. So this is going to be things like GDPR, the way you manage people's personal data and things around that. And we'll make sure that you have the right processes in place. Now, we know that you have a ton of work to do, especially in terms of, you know, COVID-19 and the various restrictions around that and the various needs in our communities. So many frontline concerns that we understand that, you know, with the best will in the world, as much as you might want to make sure that, you know, you're GDPR compliant and you're submitting accounts on time and your charity is set up optimally, we know the pressures that you're facing, and that know that, you know, due to time constraints and resource constraints, that isn't always possible. So like I said, we take the strain and the pressure out of it for you, and just make sure that you're on track and that you're going to have the right things in place to make sure that you can access that funding that your organization deserves and needs to actually increase your impact. Gift aid maximization, and this is, like many of you will know, is what we are best known for. We have literally helped churches, charities across the UK for the last 11 years not only save money, but increase their income literally by thousands through unclaimed gift aid. And even in this time where funds are so necessary and so needed, we still come across charities and churches every day that are not maximizing gift aid. And in doing so, you're just leaving income on the table. And so we just make sure that you are not missing out on a penny, because we know how much that income is needed at that time. And finally is funding. And so we will match you with the right funders. In the run up to this webinar, I know a lot of you pretty much submitted the same question, which was, how do I access funding and how do I know what grants to apply for? Now that is our job. That is what Dominic does day in and day out. Make sure that you are you're going through this roadmap, that you are fit for funding and that you are matched with the right funding according to your charitable objectives and what it is that you want to achieve in the community. So this is a broad overview of our roadmap and the roadmap journey. So, we will make sure that you tick all the boxes in all these areas, and we will customize the roadmap based on your needs. So for example, if you already have a charity set up, then of course we're not going to start there. We might start at financial management. So we really look at your situation. And on Monday, we'll be launching the quiz. So we have a good in-depth understanding of your organization and your needs. And then we put together a roadmap based on your needs to ensure that whether you want to get there in the next year, 18 months, 24 months, you are doing the things that you need to do to reach that goal. So what is included? So we have the charity health check and report. So what we call this our Good to Give roadmap quiz. It is 25 questions where we literally explore every aspect of your charity to get an idea of where you are in relation to all the key areas of your roadmap. And it's an online quiz that you can take, literally takes about 5 minutes, or if you're already in contact with one of our charitable advisors, they may take you through it. But you do this quiz, and on the back of that, we send you a report. Now, we also provide consultancy. Now, the consultancy that you get as part of this roadmap is worth £1,250. When we look at the hours and the time investment and the people involved in that consultancy, so it's very valuable, but you get the roadmap completely free. When we came into this year, we really wanted to provide you with a solution that was going to add value. And this is kind of what we've come up with. And so you get consultancy, like I said, is worth over, £1,250, which you get included as part of the roadmap service. And of course, you get the delivery of the Good to Give services, which are chargeable. So that's the format, that's what the roadmap comprises. But, in terms of the value that it will bring to your organization, in terms of how easier it will make your life, literally, it's kind of a no-brainer at this point. And, Good to Give is an organization that has been working with organizations like you for over a decade. And so understands your needs inside out, talks to charities and churches like you every day. And this roadmap really is based around your needs. So let's talk about the benefits of joining. So you have a clear growth path for your charity. There's nothing worse, than wanting to get to a destination, knowing the goal, and not knowing how to get there, not having the expertise to know exactly what you need to do to get there. And it can seem foggy, especially when there's 1,000,001 things going on in your organization, in the nation right now, COVID, firefighting on all sides. It's one thing to know where you want to go, it's quite another to know how you're going to get there. So what we do through this roadmap is we map out a clear growth path. So you no longer have to think about how am I going to get fit for funding. You can rest assured that you are in safe hands. We are doing the thinking for you. We are doing the strategy for you. And you know that ultimately, eventually, you're going to get to that goal. And it will increase your income. Through things like the digital app, which we haven't even spoke about, and taking online donations, increase your income through gift aid. So you will be generating more income. You will be more eligible for funding, the funding that is available. You will have the support of our network of experienced advisors. And you will avoid charity compliance fines, or fines that are due to lack of compliance, because we'll be making sure that you are compliant. And one thing that isn't on here, you get preferential access to our charitable experts. As someone that's in our roadmap and that we're journeying with and that we're supporting you, you get preferential access to our team of experts. So how do you join? Like I said, it's completely free to join. You submit your interest here. So at bit.ly/G2G roadmap. Like I said, we are launching on Monday. We are super excited about it. You'll be able to take the roadmap quiz on our website, and one of our charity advisors will be in touch with next steps and how to get the ball rolling. So do register your interest. It costs you nothing, but the return and the gain from it could be absolutely invaluable. And literally at this point, all you need to do is register your interest. So, you know, do take us up on that offer. Like I said, there's no charge for you to sign up to the roadmap and express your interest. So we really do encourage you to do that. And then the second thing we'd ask you to do is, if you're really interested in funding and you want to get the ball rolling on that, then complete the fundraising survey so we know where you are in terms of, you know, what needs to be done specifically in relation to fundraising. So that is it. Do we have any questions before we sign off? Do we have any questions? I can actually see quite a few questions. So, do you get a percentage when you are able to secure funding for a charity, or you charge for different services?
Yes, we do get a percentage for providing the support for our fundraising charitable support. So how it works is that initially there is a deposit that is paid. This deposit is paid is a percentage of what our final fee will be if we're successful. So if we're not successful, in the rare cases where we may not be successful and we have to resubmit, then there would not be a final fee, because we're not in the business of trying to get money from any of our clients when we haven't delivered. Morally, is something that we don't agree with. And as far as we're concerned, we take a deposit at the start, because that is just to cover the costs of our bid writers, because we've got a bid writing team, and just to ensure that we get to survive as well. So, yeah. And so we just make it a percentage of what our final fee would be. And we do endeavour to make all applications include the amount of our fee as well. We endeavour to do that. In most cases we can do that, and so we do that so that there's no, basically getting the service for free, as long as when we're finally successful. If you're resilient, we'll be resilient as well. And that means that initially we can keep on going until we're successful, but you stick with it, we stick with it as well. And but obviously within that, you've got to provide us with everything we require, so that we've got a very good chance of getting you the money. And if you don't, it lessens that probability. But in terms of how much his fee is, it's on a sliding scale. Our fees are, and the more that you actually can go for, the lower the percentages that we actually charge for the service. And we do that because, number one, we're not greedy, and we're passionate and believe in the work that we do. And we realize that, you know what, 10% of, say, a large amount of money is a decent amount of money. And so what we do is it's on a sliding scale, because a lot of the smaller applications actually, they involve a lot of the same level of work rate that we're putting into the bigger applications as well. So it's just so that it makes it worthwhile, and also we can cover those costs. So for instance, I'll give an example. If you were to apply for £10,000, you'd be expected to pay a deposit of around £480, around that region. And we do this not only to cover the costs, but also so that we've got some level of investment and commitment from the clients that we're working with. In the past, when we didn't have this same approach, people have started, ran out of energy and walked away, leaving us with a pile of work that we've done. And basically, time is also money. We have got to pay our bid writers. And so that means that then we are out of pocket, and it's not our project, it's not our organisation. I hope that answers the question fully.
Yes, David said that was a great explanation. And so, yes, Well, we have reached the end of this webinar. Like I said, please do sign up for the charity roadmap and express your interest, and also complete that fundraising survey. You will receive a follow-up email from us to catch the replay, and also with those links as well. Thank you so much for attending. Your presence is always very, very much appreciated. Please do look out for our next webinar, which is how to set up your charity, which is taking place on the 24th. And as ever, if you have any questions or we can support you in any way, please do visit our website, goodtogive.co.uk. Have a wonderful afternoon and rest of the week, and we hope to speak to you soon.